Cain asks it to join him, and he ends up naming it Haku. Together with Haku, he manages to keep his sanity, remembering he can't give up no matter what, because he has something to protect. After some time, he finally makes it back to the house, and Yuya welcomes him back, commenting on how big he's gotten, and we learn 4 years have passed. He is also surprised to see Haku, mentioning that it's a holy beast, and suggests they could form a contract. Cain gives it a go, and Haku disappears, but Yuya says he can now summon him whenever he wants. Yuya goes on to introduce him to his next teacher Durin. Durin tells him he's still not strong enough, because Eren is even stronger than Yuya, who is stronger than him, so Cain needs to first defeat him. Cain uses his boost skill, but Durin dodges his attack, knocking him out with a single punch. When Cain wakes up, he finds he was taken in by Durin, and he meets his wife Ruri. They also have a pet dragon named Jin, and Cain is excited to see it, wanting to be its friend, but Haku jumps on him, and doesn't seem to like the dragon. Cain joins them for a meal, and he starts to cry, because it's the first time he has gotten to eat real food in 4 years. Meanwhile, we see Telestia and Silk baking. They are worried about Cain, but are learning how to bake, wanting to make him happy when he returns. Cain keeps on fighting with Durin, and he gets beaten up every day. After training for a year, Cain is still getting beaten up, and Durin wonders how he will be able to defeat Eren. But Cain thinks back to his talk with Yuya, where he explains Eren used to be the god of amusement in the Otherworld. Cain is shocked to learn there used to be 8 gods, and Yuya tells him how Eren used an oracle to force everyone in the world into a death game, and if he returns, the death game will happen again, and everyone Cain knows will get caught up in it. Cain uses this as motivation to continue his training. Yuya also goes on to reveal the reason that Eren is linked to his past life is because Eren killed his parents. We learn that his parents Seiya and Megumi were also killed in a car accident and summoned as heroes to the world. The gods were unable to interfere directly, so they tasked the 3 of them with stopping Eren, giving them an orb that could seal him away. They fight against Eren, but he is unaffected by Megumi's magic, so Yuya and Seiya charge at him, attacking with their swords, and even managing to cut his arm, but Eren retaliates with his magic, which ends up killing Megumi. Seiya activates his ultimate skill, charging at Eren, but he ends up getting stabbed. However, Yuya takes this chance, and manages to seal him, but at the cost of Seiya's life. As Cain thinks about saving those dear to him, he manages to overpower Durin, and he finally completes his training. Cain visits his parents' graves, and Yuya says how they were always worried about him. Cain thanks Yuya for looking after his parents, and Yuya shows him the cookie, which he manages to grab this time, and Yuya acknowledges his growth. Yuya suggests having some coffee, but Cain is eager to get back to the Otherworld. Yuya points out how different he looks, but he uses his power to revert his appearance. Yuya tells him to take care of Haku, and Durin tells him to take Jin to see the Otherworld as well, so Cain forms a contract with it. Cain thanks them both for looking after him, and he prepares to go back to the Otherworld. But Yuya throws him a sword, telling him to give it to the king, and Cain teleports away. He reappears back at his mansion, and the girls are overjoyed to see him. He apologizes for making them worry, but Telestia says they had faith he would return, so they even learn how to make cookies for when he got back. They welcome him home, and Cain is glad to have them in his life, as he digs into the cookies. Cain meets with the king, and explains how he met with Yuya in another world. The king finds it hard to believe, but Cain shows off the sword that Yuya gave to him, and they instantly recognize it, so they believe his story. The king reads a letter from Yuya, and learns Cain was trained by him. Cain recounts his grueling training, of how he was left in the forest with vicious monsters, and how he got beaten up every day for 5 years. The king is shocked, wondering how he trained for 5 years, but the Duke just finds him amusing as normal. The Duke mentions that while he was gone, the guild was looking for him, because he hasn't taken any quests since he became A-ranked, so they might have to cancel his registration. Cain gets worried hearing this, and immediately heads to the guild. He meets with the guild master, wondering what's going on, and the master explains that when he was promoted to A-rank, he was told he would need to subjugate some bandits. Cain mentions how he has been busy starting at the academy, but the master tells him there is a time limit for him to complete the quest, or else his registration will be cancelled. Seeing he has no other choice, Cain accepts it right away, and the master tells him about a group of bandits that have been causing trouble along a road toward the capital. He mentions there are around 10 bandits in the group, but he thinks Cain should have no problem since he is the strongest person in the city. Cain teleports over to the road, and he casts fly, so he can search for the bandits from up above. He sees the bandits as they are trying to rob a carriage, so he quickly goes to help. But he soon discovers his tutors Nina and Millie are the ones escorting the carriage, and their client is Parma's father. He notices Millie is injured, so he quickly heals her with his magic. The bandits think he is just a kid, looking down on him, and they start laughing, but Cain prepares to make them pay for injuring Millie. The bandits charge at him, but he easily defeats them while barely touching them. One of them jumps at him, but he sends the man flying. He goes on to take the rest of them out, and he comments on how hard it is to hold back his strength, but the girls think he is too strong. All the bandits are caught, and Millie wonders why he suddenly showed up. He explains how he was just on a subjugation quest, but the girls are shocked hearing this, because subjugation quests are only for C-ranked adventurers and higher, and he should have only just registered. Cain reveals how he is already A-ranked, and the girls can't believe he skipped right past the C and B ranks. The bandits end up getting taken back to town in a cage, and the group goes to Tamani's item shop to drop off Parma's father. Parma comes out to see her father, and she is happy to see Cain. She is surprised to see the bandits, and she thinks how it's their day off school, but he is still working so hard. She thinks he would also be busy as a baron, and Millie is surprised by his promotion, wondering if she should be more formal towards him, but Cain tells them he will always see them as his master, and they can just keep calling him by his name. Millie thinks he has grown so much, thinking he seems like an adult now, but Cain slips away, saying he needs to get back to report to the guild, as he runs off, but the girls chase after him. Cain goes to turn in his quest, and Tia is surprised he is already finished. She is about to go tell the guildmaster, but some adventurers start harassing the two girls. The girls try to ignore them, and the man tries to grab Millie, but he gets stopped by Cain. The men realize who he is, remembering their past encounter, and they become terrified, falling to the ground. Claude appears, wondering what's the commotion, and Cain is happy to see him. The thugs run away, and Claude is surprised to see him with Millie, revealing she is actually his younger sister. Cain can't believe the coincidence, and the group has some drinks together. Claude wonders what they were doing together, and Millie explains how Cain saved them and easily took out all the bandits, mentioning how he is already A-ranked. Claude is surprised hearing this, thinking it's only been a few days since he registered, but remembers how Cain was able to keep up with him during their mock fight. Millie wonders how he got so strong, causing Cain to panic, because he can't tell them how he was trained by the gods. But Millie remembers how he took out a red dragon even as a kid, so she just thinks he has always been this strong. Claude is impressed, thinking red dragons are SS ranked, and the girls also show off the magic bags that Cain made for them. Lena demands to know how much they can hold, and Millie says she doesn't really know since she has never been able to fill it, but mentions how Cain told them it could fit an entire mansion, and Lena gets jealous, thinking they are national treasure class items. She pesters Cain for one as well, and he ends up promising to make one for her. As she thanks him, she actually falls asleep, and Claude reveals she can't hold her liquor very well. Cain suddenly thinks about how he missed school for an entire week, so he needs to make sure he doesn't miss any more classes. Claude wonders why he is going to school when he is already a baron, but Cain says there's still a lot he doesn't know. Nina thinks he is a good kid, offering him a hug, but Cain quickly runs off. At that moment, Tia appears, mentioning the adventurer who was meant to teach at the academy got injured, and Claude becomes interested, wanting to help Cain out. The next day at the academy, Cain attends his magic class, where they are practicing their spells on the targets. Cain gets excited, wanting to try out the new spells that he learned from Yuya, but the teacher calls him out, telling him he isn't allowed to use any attacking spells, because even when he used beginner magic last time, he ended up destroying the academy's barrier. Cain can't believe it, and his friends watch on, thinking he doesn't fit in with the rest of his class, so they come up with a plan to give him a hand. In Cain's adventuring class, the teacher tells him their instructor got injured, so he introduces Claude and the others as guest instructors for the class. The students recognize Claude and Lena, and Claude begins by asking all the students to take out their guild cards. We see all the students have bronze cards, since they are all newly registered. Claude wants Cain to show off his gold card, but Cain thinks it's a bad idea, thinking it would only make him more isolated from the other students, so he pretends he forgot his card. The class moves outdoors, and Claude starts training the students one by one. Cain gets excited, thinking he will finally be able to show what he can do, but Claude keeps fighting the other students instead. Cain gets ignored and isolated, but this is all part of Claude's plan. They want to first show how strong they are to the other students, and when Cain is able to keep up with him, the other students will be impressed by his strength, and he will become the hero of the class. Cain gets anxious waiting, but another student tells him to get in line. Claude beats up all the other students, and Cain is the last one to go. They start to fight, but the bell rings, and their teacher tells them time is up. Cain is disappointed he didn't get to fight, but Claude apologizes for messing up the time. Claude promises to fight him next time, but Cain's teacher mentions how the school doesn't have the budget to invite Claude again, since a lot of their money was spent repairing the wall and barrier that he destroyed. All the students thank them for the training, but Cain is left devastated that he didn't get a turn. At night, Cain gets pissed off thinking about Claude, and he goes on a rampage throughout the forest. He comes across a dragon, but he easily takes it out with a single slash, and he rains fire down into the forest, causing a huge explosion, and the guards report that they must be getting attacked by the Prince of Darkness. They sound the alarm, and we see Garm rushing out to investigate it. Cain calms down after blowing off some steam, and he teleports home, leaving behind his handkerchief, and when his father arrives, he only finds an enormous hole, and he is shocked seeing the handkerchief. The next day, Cain is called by the king, who tells him about what his father found. They suggest it's the work of the Prince of Darkness, thinking they need to contact other countries to prepare, but Cain comes clean, admitting that it was him. The king reprimands him, and when he gets home, his father also lectures him. Meanwhile, in a distant cave, we see a fragment of Aaron as it gets picked up by a goblin and then swallowed by a dragon. The dragon becomes possessed, and Aaron takes over it, realizing that the seal on him has weakened, and he has regained some of his power, swearing to get his revenge on the other gods. At the academy, Cain's class is learning about summoning magic. The teacher calls him out, and he thinks he is being told to study by himself, but she tells him that since they are not practicing attack magic, he is allowed to participate. Cain gets excited, and their teacher introduces their instructor Grat, a mage from the palace. Grat explains there are two types of summoning magic. The first is when you establish a bond with a monster and form a contract with it, and the second way is to summon a monster from a magic circle. Grat tells them they will be practicing the magic circle summoning, and he hands out talismans to them. The students start summoning all kinds of different creatures, trying to form contracts with them. One student manages to summon a giant beast, but it refuses to form a contract and disappears. Grat explains he didn't have enough magic power to make the monster submit, but compliments the boy for being able to summon such a monster in the first place. After all the other students are finished, Grat tells Cain it's his turn. Cain gets ready to put all his magic into the circle, but he worries about summoning a crazy monster like he did when he was young. However, Grat tells him not to worry, saying the monster will just disappear if he can't form a contract, so he tells Cain to give it all he's got. Cain gets excited, putting all of his magic into the circle, but Grat starts to panic, because there's just too much magic, and even Cain is blown away. A demon appears, and it wonders how a human managed to summon him, the Prince of Darkness. Cain panics hearing this, and quickly casts Flash to blind everyone else. Cain wonders if the demon is an ally of Aaron, and the demon looks down on him since he is human. It uses his ability to check out Cain's status, and he starts to approach Cain. Cain prepares for a fight, but it immediately submits to him, after seeing how strong he is, and offers to become his underling. Cain is surprised, and the demon says he is happy to form a contract with him, saying he would do anything for him, even if it was to destroy an entire nation, but Cain says he wouldn't ask for something like that. The demon introduces himself as Seth, the Prince of Darkness, and he tells Cain he can summon him whenever he wants. The demon disappears, and Grat asks about the demon that showed up, but Cain claims he wasn't able to form a contract with it, and it just disappeared. Grat buys his story, and Cain is relieved he managed to cover it up. but Grat ends up reporting the incident to the king. The king interrogates Cain, and he is forced to admit he summoned the Prince of Darkness, which causes them all to freak out, because if it decided to go on a rampage, it could destroy the capital in a blink of an eye. Cain apologizes, saying all he did was put his magic into the circle. Grat wonders just how much magic he has to be able to summon the Prince of Darkness, and the king thinks it must have been because of the training he received from the first king. He asks to see Cain's status, and he warns Grat not to speak of anything that he sees. Cain opens his status window, and they are shocked to see he now has the title of demigod, and his status has become immeasurable. The king wonders what the heck is going on, and Grat bows down to him, calling him a god. The duke thinks they should start calling him master, and the king worries he has the power to destroy the entire world. But Cain says he has no intention of doing anything like that, telling them to just treat him as they normally would. The king decides to promote him to a viscount, giving him an entire town, and decides to publicly announce his engagement to the princess. Back at his house, Sylvia congratulates him on his promotion, wondering which area he will be given, and he mentions it should be a town near the capital. Sylvia thinks they should celebrate, but Colin suddenly brings news that his brother witnessed an onslaught in the forest of monsters. Cain immediately heads back to Gracia and visits his family home, where he meets with his brother. His brother tells him there has been a vast increase in the number of adventurers being attacked in the forest over the past few months, so he sent out high-ranking adventurers to look into it, and they reported that the number of monsters in the forest has grown, and they have become savage. His brother mentions an onslaught incident from a few decades back, where monsters suddenly turned savage and attacked the city. Looking at the records, the current behavior of the monsters is quite similar, so he thinks it could be another onslaught. But since they don't have real evidence, they can't send all their men on a massive scale. Cain decides to go investigate the forest, but his brother worries about him, thinking he is still young, but Cain shows off his gold card, telling him not to worry, and reminding him of how he defeated a red dragon in the past. So his brother thanks him for his help. Cain heads over to the Adventurers Guild, and the clerk looks down on him since he is just a kid. But she is shocked when she sees his gold card, and another clerk named Rudy asks Cain to forgive the girl since she is new. She wonders what he is after, and Cain wants to know more about the forest. Rudy explains the monsters have become increasingly savage, and there are more signs it could be an onslaught. At that moment, Millie and Nina arrive at the guild, and Cain wonders what they are doing there. They mention that the guild put out a call for higher-ranked adventurers, and the monsters in the forest were too tough for just the two of them, so they were planning to meet up with Claude and Lena. Rudy wonders what Cain plans to do, and he says he wants to check out the forest first. Rudy thinks it's too dangerous for him to go alone, and since he is a noble, if anything happened to him, it would cause problems for the guild. Cain thinks he should be strong enough, but Rudy suggests he should find someone to go with. Cain has an idea, and he summons Haku and Jin to accompany him. They instantly jump onto him, but they soon notice something is up. Cain uses his search skill, and as he runs through the forest, he gets the feeling he is being watched. He defeats a number of monsters